The crystalline light of the Xylo's council chamber shimmered, reflecting the anxieties etched into the multifaceted eyes of the delegates. The air, thick with the subtle ionized scent of the neural data streams and the faint, earthy aroma of the progenitor vine that coiled around the central arbiter's dais, hummed with an unspoken tension. The chamber of contemplation, designed millennia ago for the serene, measured exchange of interstellar policy, felt constricted, almost suffocating, under the weight of the current debate. Venerated Councillor Thrax, his chitinous carapace a deep, lustrous violet, shifted his weight, the gentle clack of his forelimbs against the polished floor a stark counterpoint to the agitated whispers that rippled through the gathered representatives. He surveyed the assembly, the stoic, six-limbed Cathar, their sensory filaments twitching in a visible display of unease, the translucent, bioluminescent Kalen, their internal organs pulsing with muted fear, and the perpetually calm, though now subtly disturbed, Vexler, their multiple ocular stalks swiveling, absorbing every subtle shift in the room's energy. "Esteemed delegates," Thrax began, his voice a low, resonant thrum that cut through the nascent cacophony. "We convene today not for expansion, nor for the ceremonial reaffirmation of ancient treaties, but to address a singularity, an anomaly of such profound implication that it threatens the very fabric of our established galactic order. The humans." The species designation, usually pronounced with a dismissive click and a slight flick of a Cathar sensory filament, hung heavy in the air, imbued now with a palpable sense of dread. For cycles, their existence had been relegated to the outer fringe reports, a primitive, nascent species confined to a single stellar system, notable only for their unusual biological resilience and their peculiar aggressive territorial instincts. They were a curiosity, an academic footnote, certainly not a subject worthy of such an emergency convocation of the Grand Alliance. Yet here they were, the data streams projected onto the vast spherical display that dominated the chamber's center painted a stark, terrifying picture, not of a nascent species, but of an unpredictable, volatile force. The initial reports had been dismissed as hyperbole, the exaggerated fear of outpost patrols encountering an unknown, aggressive entity. But then came the corroboration, the undeniable sensor logs, the distorted, frantic hails from vessels that had dared to approach their declared territorial boundaries. Their expansion, once a slow, almost imperceptible crawl, had accelerated with a disquieting exponential growth, their presence now detected in systems previously considered empty, uninhabited void. They built, they explored, they claimed, all with a speed and a methodological efficiency that defied known galactic developmental models. And then the incident. The single, unprecedented act that had shattered the Alliance's complacency and plunged them into this chilling uncertainty. Councillor Velorprax of the Vexler, his form a shimmering column of light, pulsed with an agitated rhythm. "Venerated Thrax, with all due respect, we have established protocols for such emerging species. Containment, observation, and if necessary, guided assimilation into the Alliance's protective sphere. Why does this species, the humans, warrant such alarm? Their technology, while surprisingly rapid in its development, is by galactic standards rudimentary. Their FTL drives are inefficient, their energy signatures detectable from significant distances. They lack even rudimentary psionic capability. They are in essence an underdeveloped entity in a vast, complex galaxy." His voice, a melodic series of chimes, carried a hint of intellectual disdain, a common Vexler trait towards species lacking inherent psionic aptitude. "Because Velorprax," interjected Councillor Xyler of the Cathar, his voice a series of guttural clicks and his sensory filaments bristling, "they do not behave as an underdeveloped entity should. They disregard our established communication protocols. They ignore our warning beacons. They respond to our attempts at diplomatic overture with silence. And then they act. We sent a diplomatic flotilla, a gesture of goodwill, a clear demonstration of our advanced capabilities, intended to impress upon them the wisdom of joining the Alliance. A single vessel, designated the Serenity of Kyler, a diplomatic cruiser, approached their border zone. It sent standard hails, offered parley extended invitations for cultural exchange. What did they do?" Xyler paused, his multifaceted eyes focusing on the central display, where a flickering schematic of the Serenity pulsed faintly. "They destroyed it." A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the chamber. Such an act was not merely aggressive. It was anathema to galactic norms, a blatant violation of diplomatic immunity. An act of pure, unprovoked hostility. The Alliance had not faced such open defiance from a pre-FTL species in uncounted millennia. Thrax allowed the indignation to ripple before he spoke again. Indeed, Xyler's assessment, though blunt, is accurate. The Serenity incident was not an isolated act of aggression. It was a calculated, decisive act. Our intelligence probes, operating under extreme stealth, detected their energy signatures converging on the diplomatic vessel. There was no warning, no attempt at communication, merely an immediate, overwhelming strike. The Serenity, equipped with advanced defensive screens and shield generators, was rendered inert within moments. There were no survivors. The Kalan delegate Lumina 7, a shimmering vortex of ethereal light and sound, contracted slightly, its internal bioluminescence dimming in distress. Such brutality, such disregard for life. This is not the pattern of a species seeking to understand, but one seeking to dominate. Are we certain of their motivations? Perhaps there was a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation of our signals. Its voice, a gentle, harmonic hum, carried a plaintive note, reflective of the Kalan's deeply empathetic, non-aggressive nature. Thrax sighed, a faint hiss of air from his respiratory slits. We considered every possibility, Lumina 7. Our analysts meticulously re-examined every data packet, every energy signature. There was no ambiguity. Their attack was deliberate, precise. And what truly disturbs the Grand Alliance's strategic command is not merely the act itself, but the nature of the weapon used. It was an energy pulse, yes, but unlike any we have ever encountered. It bypassed our shields, nullified our defensive systems, and incapacitated the vessel's power core in a single, devastating strike. It was as if the Serenity was erased. The word hung in the air, a chilling echo. Erased. Not destroyed by conventional weaponry, not torn apart by kinetic rounds, but utterly silenced, nullified. This was a level of technological advancement, or perhaps an entirely different paradigm of energy manipulation that defied current Alliance understanding. The fear in the chamber solidified, transforming from intellectual apprehension into primal dread. "And the vessel that committed this act?" demanded Xyler, his sensory filaments now fully erect, vibrating with barely contained fury. "What was it? A superweapon? A prototype mothership?" Thrax directed his gaze to the central display. A single image, grainy but undeniably clear, materialized. It was a ship, certainly, but unlike any design in the Alliance's extensive archives. It was angular, almost brutally utilitarian, devoid of the elegant curves or symbolic ornamentation common to most starfaring civilizations. Its hull was a dull, matte gray, absorbing rather than reflecting the ambient light. It possessed no discernible weapons emplacements, no visible FTL drives, no external indicators of its true power. It simply existed. "This," Thrax stated, his voice now lower, tinged with an unfamiliar awe, "is the vessel. Our long-range probes managed to capture this single image before they were deactivated. It is designated by human schematics as UNSC Arbiter, a patrol cruiser by their own classifications. This single patrol cruiser accomplished what entire fleets of our own vessels would struggle to achieve against a diplomatic cruiser of the Serenity's class." A stunned silence descended upon the chamber, broken only by the faint, almost imperceptible hum of the environmental processors. A patrol cruiser! A single, unassuming vessel, described by its own creators as a standard-issue patrol unit, possessed the capability to instantly neutralize a diplomatic cruiser armed with state-of-the-art defensive systems. The implication was staggering. It suggested a profound disparity in technological capability, one that tilted the balance of power decisively, terrifyingly, in favor of these enigmatic humans. Counselor Velor Prax, his bioluminescent form now pulsing with a frantic, irregular beat, projected a rapid series of calculations onto the display. This is impossible. The energy output required for such a weapon, even accounting for exotic field manipulation, would be astronomical. It would require a power source orders of magnitude beyond anything we currently possess. Their entire system would register as an uncontrolled fusion event. "Yet it occurred," Thrax responded, his voice grave. "Our probes detected no unusual energy fluctuations within their system prior to the attack. No massive power spikes, no buildup of exotic energies. The attack was instantaneous, seamless, as if the weapon was not fired but merely activated. We have no understanding of its operational principles. We do not even comprehend the theoretical framework that would allow for such a device." The Cathar delegate Xyler slammed one of his forelimbs onto the polished floor, the sound echoing sharply. "Then we must strike. We must deploy a containment fleet, overwhelm them with sheer numbers, force them to reveal their secrets, or destroy them before they can unleash such a weapon upon the Alliance. We cannot allow this threat to fester. Their territorial expansion continues unabated. They are encroaching upon the Cathar mercantile routes, disrupting established trade agreements. Their defiance is an insult to our collective strength, a challenge to our very sovereignty. His fear was transmuted into aggressive conviction. And risk escalating this unknown variable into a galactic conflict, Lumina 7 interjected, its light dimming further in horror. We know nothing of their true capabilities, Xyler. To engage them in open warfare without understanding their full potential is madness. It is a path to unimaginable destruction. Thrax raised a hand, silencing the growing dissent. Lumina 7 speaks with wisdom. Xyler's urgency is understandable, but his proposed solution is premature and potentially catastrophic. We stand on the precipice of an encounter that could redefine our understanding of power, of conflict, of even existence itself. We cannot afford rash action. Our intelligence is incomplete. Our understanding of the humans, their motivations, their technology, their very psychology is rudimentary. We see aggression, yes, but we also see a calculated precision, a methodical expansion that belies mere savagery. Their actions are contradictory, baffling. He paused, allowing his gaze to sweep across the anxious faces in the chamber. The very name they bestow upon their vessel, the Arbiter, it suggests a role, a purpose beyond mere patrol, an adjudicator, a judge, of what we cannot fathom, but it implies a framework, a philosophy that is entirely unknown to us. We have received no further provocations since the Serenity incident. They have not pursued our retreating probes. They have merely continued their expansion, establishing new outposts, exploring new systems, as if the incident was a statement, a warning, or perhaps an act of justice from their perspective. The silence that followed was heavy, pregnant with unarticulated questions. Justice? For what? The Alliance had done nothing but offer diplomatic outreach. Yet the possibility, however remote, that the humans operated under a different ethical or legal framework, one where the Alliance's actions might be construed as an offense, was deeply unsettling. Thrax continued, his voice softer, more reflective. Our most advanced long-range observation platforms, those operating at the extreme limits of their operational envelopes, have managed to gather further intelligence from within their claimed territory. Not through direct contact, but through the analysis of residual energy signatures, communications intercepts, encrypted, of course, but offering tantalizing glimpses into their internal workings. We have detected no signs of a centralized, overarching galactic empire, no vast, unified political entity. Instead, we detect a fragmented collection of nations, as they term them, each with its own internal governance, its own societal structure. Yet when confronted with an external threat, they present a unified front. The United Nations Space Command appears to be a military and exploratory arm that transcends these internal divisions. And their internal affairs, their culture, Lumina 7 inquired, its light flickering with curiosity, ever seeking understanding. Complex, contradictory, Thrax responded. They seem to possess an unusual capacity for both profound compassion and extreme brutality. They venerate individuals who display self-sacrifice for the collective, yet also celebrate individual achievement, often at the expense of others. Their internal conflicts are frequent, often violent, yet they possess an almost uncanny ability to recover, to rebuild, to adapt. Their history is rife with examples of both societal collapse and miraculous resurgence. They are, in essence, a species of paradoxes. Counselor Velorprax interjected, his voice tinged with a new intellectual curiosity. Such a psychological profile suggests an evolutionary path dictated by extreme environmental pressures, fostering resilience and adaptability above all else. But it also suggests a potential for unpredictability. A species that can shift so rapidly between cooperation and conflict is inherently unstable. Indeed, Thrax affirmed, and it is this unpredictability, coupled with their undeniable technological prowess, that renders them such a profound concern. We cannot anticipate their next move. We cannot predict their response. We know only that they possess a weapon that can neutralize our most advanced vessels with terrifying ease, and a will to use it when they deem it necessary. The question before us now, esteemed delegates, is not if we should engage them, but how. And perhaps more importantly, why? What is their objective? What do they truly seek? He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to settle. We have received new information, a development that complicates our understanding even further. A human vessel, not the Arbiter, but a smaller, unarmed exploratory craft, has entered a system designated by the Alliance as Nexus Delta. This system lies directly on the border of Alliance-claimed space, far from their declared territory. It is a system devoid of sentient life, but rich in valuable heavy elements. It is also a system where a Cathar mining operation, established under Alliance charter, has been active for cycles. A fresh wave of indignation rippled through the Cathar delegates. This was not merely encroachment. It was a direct challenge to Alliance economic interests, a blatant disregard for established resource claims. "This is an act of clear provocation," Xyler roared, his multifaceted eyes glowing with fury. "They are testing our resolve. We must send a punitive fleet, demonstrate the futility of their ambition. This cannot stand." "And risk another Arbiter incident?" Thrax countered, his voice sharp. "We know nothing of this new vessel's capabilities, Xyler, and we know nothing of the human's intent. Is it an act of aggression, or is it something else entirely? We have dispatched an observation fleet operating under strict stealth protocols to monitor the situation. No aggressive action is to be taken. No communication is to be initiated. We must understand. We must learn." The Cathar delegate bristled, but the command from Thrax, backed by the weight of the entire council, was absolute. The Cathar, for all their bluster and aggressive tendencies, understood the profound implications of defying the Council in such a grave matter. To do so would be to invite internal conflict, an outcome even more devastating than external threat. The image on the central display shifted, now showing the Nexus Delta system. A small, almost insignificant speck, the human exploratory vessel, was visible near a rich asteroid field not far from the Cathar mining platform. It was stationary, its energy signatures faint, almost dormant. It emitted no aggressive readings, no weapon signatures. It was simply observing. "Our probes report that the human vessel has been stationary for the past 3 cycles, Thrax explained. "It has not attempted to interact with the Cathar mining operation. It has not deployed any probes or mining drones. It simply remains, observing. What do they observe? What is their intent? We sent the observation fleet with a single overriding directive: patience. We must not be drawn into a conflict born of ignorance. We must understand the game before we play it." The tension in the chamber remained palpable, but the immediate impulse for aggressive action had been tempered by the sheer mystery surrounding the humans. They were an enigma, a species that defied all established galactic norms, all predictable patterns. Their technology, their psychology, their very existence challenged the Alliance's fundamental understanding of the cosmos. And at the heart of this enigma was the Arbiter, the vessel that was a just and myth, until it destroyed an Armada. The dread that name evoked, the sheer, unimaginable power it represented, was enough to keep even the most bellicose delegates in check. For now. The Cathar mining platform, a sprawling complex of asteroid-hugging structures, pulsed with the rhythmic thrum of active extractors and processing units. Within its central control module, Commander K.R. Thar, a veteran of countless resource acquisition deployments, watched the distant human vessel with a mixture of suspicion and growing frustration. For 3 cycles, it had simply sat there, a silent, gray sentinel observing his operations. His initial hails, stern and unambiguous, had been met with impenetrable silence. His warnings, delivered with all the authority of the Cathar hegemony, had been utterly ignored. "Report, Lieutenant," K.R. Thar clicked, his sensory filaments twitching in irritation. "Still no response, Commander," the lieutenant, a younger Cathar named Zilka, reported, his multifaceted eyes fixed on the sensor readings. "Their energy signatures remain stable, low-level, no weapon emanations, no FTL signature fluctuations. They are simply there." "Simply there," K.R. Thar echoed, his voice a low growl. "Observing our sovereign territory, our legitimate mining operations. This is an affront, Lieutenant, a blatant disregard for Alliance protocols. The Council's directive of patience is pushing the limits of my endurance. We are Cathar. We do not tolerate such insolence." "But the Council's warnings regarding the Arbiter," Zilka began, his voice tinged with apprehension. The legends, the data, the sheer, terrifying efficiency of that single human vessel had spread like wildfire through the Alliance forces. It was a phantom, a whisper of impossible power. "Legends do not dictate policy, Lieutenant," K.R. Thar snapped, though a flicker of unease crossed his own complex visual receptors. He knew the data, he had seen the projections. The Arbiter was real and its capabilities were terrifying. But this was a single, unarmed exploratory vessel. It was an insult, a probe designed to test their resolve. Suddenly, a new alert flashed across Zilka's console. "Commander, energy signatures, faint but growing, from the human vessel." K. Arthar moved swiftly to the console, his forelimbs clicking over the controls. The projected image of the human ship now showed a subtle, almost imperceptible shimmer around its hull. It wasn't a weapon charge, not an FTL spool-up. It was different. "Analysis," K. Arthar demanded. "Unknown energy signature, Commander," Zilka reported, his voice tight with growing alarm. It's a focused beam, extremely low power, directed at the asteroid field we are currently exploiting. Not a weapon, not a tractor beam, it's scanning. A deep penetration geological scan." K. Arthar stiffened. A deep penetration scan of his asteroid field? This was not mere observation. This was direct intelligence gathering, an act of commercial espionage, a blatant violation of Cathar proprietary data. The Council's patience was one thing, but allowing foreign entities to freely pilfer their geological surveys was an entirely different matter. "This is intolerable," K. Arthar roared. "Prepare a warning shot, not to inflict damage, but to demonstrate our resolve. A focused energy pulse, calibrated to miss their vessel by a wide margin, but sufficient to disrupt their scans. Make it clear they are trespassing." Zilka hesitated. "Commander, the Council explicitly forbade aggressive action." "This is not aggression, Lieutenant," K. Arthar interrupted, his voice edged with steel. "This is a defensive measure, a protection of Alliance assets. Do it." With visible reluctance, Zilka initiated the sequence. A focused energy beam, designed to harmlessly deflect and disrupt, coalesced from one of the platform's defensive emplacements. It shot forth, a brilliant emerald shaft, aimed to intersect the human vessel's scanning beam and dissipate harmlessly into the void. The emerald beam arced through space. It impacted the faint shimmer emanating from the human ship. And then, something extraordinary, something utterly impossible, occurred. The emerald beam, a precisely calibrated energy pulse from a Cathar defensive emplacement, did not dissipate harmlessly. It did not even disrupt the human vessel's scan. Instead, as it made contact with the subtle energy field around the human ship, it seemed to unravel. Its coherence collapsed, its energy dispersing in a shower of impotent particles that simply faded into the vacuum of space. The human vessel's faint shimmer remained utterly undisturbed. Its scanning beam continued its low-power probe of the asteroid field, as if nothing had happened. K. Arthar stared, his multifaceted eyes wide with disbelief. What just happened? Zilka's vocalizer clicked frantically. "Commander, the Cathar energy pulse, it was completely nullified. It's as if their hull field absorbed it, diffused it, without even registering its presence. Our systems are showing no impact, no energy spike, no defensive engagement from their side. It simply ceased to exist." A cold dread began to coil in K. Arthar's gut. This was not merely advanced shielding. This was a complete negation of energy. His defensive systems, designed to withstand sustained bombardment from other Alliance species, had been rendered utterly useless by a subtle, barely perceptible field around an unarmed exploratory vessel. The implications were terrifying. "Commander, new readings," Zilka cried, his voice now laced with genuine fear. "The human vessel, it's increasing its energy signature, it's stabilizing, it's communicating." On the main display, a new icon appeared, emanating from the human ship. It was a communication channel, open and broadcasting. The universal translator systems of the Cathar platform whirred to life, attempting to decipher the alien signal. A voice, calm, clear, and utterly devoid of aggression, filled the control module. It was a human voice, speaking in a cadence and with intonations that were entirely alien to the Cathar, yet the translator rendered it with chilling precision. "This is United Nations Survey Vessel Pathfinder to Cathar Mining Platform. Your unprovoked energy discharge has been logged. While it caused no damage to our vessel, such actions are considered a breach of interstellar conduct. We repeat, Pathfinder is engaged in a geological survey. We have not encroached upon your physical installations, nor have we interfered with your mining operations. Our scans merely seek to understand the systemic composition of this region, a region designated by our own celestial cartography as unaligned space, devoid of established claims. However, due to your demonstrated hostility, and for the sake of de-escalation, we will withdraw from this system immediately. We will, however, retain the data gathered during our survey. Consider this a final communication. Pathfinder out. The voice ceased, the communication channel closed, and then with an almost imperceptible shimmer, the human vessel spooled up its FTL drive. There was no theatrical display of power, no lingering energy residue. It simply vanished, leaving behind only the profound silence of space and the gaping disbelief of the Cathar crew. Arthar stood frozen, his mind reeling. They had fired a warning shot, and it had been nullified, casually absorbed by an unarmed ship. And then the humans had lectured them on interstellar conduct, on proper protocol, on the nature of unaligned space. They had withdrawn, not in fear or defeat, but with a quiet, almost arrogant dignity, leaving behind an insult far more profound than any physical attack. They had declared their own cartography as authoritative, dismissing alliance claims without a second thought. And they had taken their data, invaluable geological information that the Cathar had spent cycles accumulating, without a single concession. The Council, observing this entire exchange through the stealth probes, reacted with a stunned silence that transcended species and culture. The Kalan delegate Lumina 7 shimmered with a profound mixture of relief and bewildered awe. The Vexler counselor V. Lorprax pulsed with an accelerated, agitated rhythm, his intellect struggling to process the implications. And even the aggressive Cathar delegates, including Xyler, were visibly subdued, their anger replaced by a chilling realization. Thrax finally broke the silence in the council chamber, his voice a low, resonant thrum laden with new understanding. They did not respond with aggression, Xyler. They responded with a lesson. They demonstrated their superiority not through overwhelming force, but through effortless negation. They showed us that our weaponry is irrelevant, our warnings impotent. And then they lectured us on our conduct, on our understanding of galactic law. They declared the region unaligned, effectively dismissing our millennia-old claim without a hint of concession. But they withdrew, Lumina 7 murmured, its light flickering with hope. That is a gesture of peace, is it not? A de-escalation. Is it, Lumina 7? Thrax mused, his voice filled with a new, unsettling understanding. Or is it a demonstration of contempt? They left because they chose to leave, not because they were compelled. They took what they wanted, their data, and they departed on their own terms, having established their undeniable superiority in a nonviolent, yet profoundly humiliating manner. They did not attack. They instructed. They did not retaliate. They demonstrated. And they did so with a calm, almost pedagogical authority that chills me to my core. Velor Prax, his bioluminescence now settling into a more rapid, yet steady pulse, began to project complex holographic simulations into the chamber. Their whole field, the energy negation. My analysis suggests a localized quantum entanglement field, possibly generating a micro-singularity effect to absorb and dissipate energy. Such technology would require power generation capabilities orders of magnitude beyond even our theoretical models, or an entirely different understanding of spacetime dynamics. And the fact that an exploratory vessel possesses it, it suggests that this technology is not a rare experimental prototype. It is standard issue. The implications of Velor Prax's words sent a fresh wave of dread through the council. If an unarmed scout ship possessed such power, what then did the Arbiter truly contain? Thrax's voice, when he spoke again, was imbued with a chilling certainty. The Arbiter was not a superweapon, delegates, it was not a prototype. It was a standard vessel, likely equipped with standard human technology. The Serenity was not destroyed by an unprecedented superweapon. It was destroyed by the standard operational capabilities of a human patrol cruiser. Its name, Arbiter, was not merely a designation. It was a declaration of intent. It was an adjudicator. It judged our diplomatic approach as hostile or perhaps as an infringement, and it delivered its verdict with overwhelming, yet precise, finality. The Cathar delegates, initially furious at the insult, were now utterly silent, their sensory filaments drooping. The reality was setting in. Their entire understanding of galactic power, of technological progression, of even the very nature of conflict, was being rewritten by a species they had dismissed as primitives. The humans were not aggressive primitives. They were something far more terrifying, calm, logical, ethical, by their own unique alien standards, and possessed of an incomprehensible power that rendered the Alliance's vast fleets virtually irrelevant. We have been operating under a false premise, Thrax continued, his voice heavy with the weight of this new understanding. We have judged them by our standards, our protocols, our assumptions, and they have demonstrated through their actions the utter inadequacy of those assumptions. They are not chaotic, they are not savage, they are methodical, they are precise, and they operate under a code of conduct that is entirely alien to us, yet which they enforce with absolute, undeniable authority. "So what then is our course?" Xyler finally asked, his voice subdued, stripped of its previous bluster. "If our fleets are useless, our diplomacy ignored, our very understanding of the universe challenged, what can we do?" Thrax looked out at the assembled delegates, his multifaceted eyes reflecting a profound, unsettling contemplation. "We learn, we observe, we cease to project our fears and our assumptions onto them. We approach them as a completely unknown variable, a force that operates by rules we do not comprehend, but which we now know they possess the undeniable power to enforce. We send a new envoy, not a diplomatic flotilla, but a single, unarmed vessel. One that makes no claims, poses no threats, and seeks only to understand. We humble ourselves, esteemed delegates, and we seek knowledge. For the alternative, as the Arbiter has so chillingly demonstrated, is utter annihilation." The silence that followed was not one of despair, but of a profound, collective reevaluation. The galactic order, once a stable, predictable structure, had been shaken to its core. A single species, once considered insignificant, had, through a series of calculated, precise actions, proven themselves to be the ultimate arbiters of a new, terrifying reality. The fear remained, but it was now a fear tempered by a burgeoning, unsettling respect. The humans were not a threat to be eradicated, but an enigma to be understood, an unknown factor that demanded a complete rethinking of galactic policy, of diplomacy, and of the very definition of power. The Council was faced with a truth more profound than any battle. They had underestimated humanity, and the price of that error was now manifesting in the very foundations of their galactic civilization. The chosen vessel for the new diplomatic mission was a Kalan-class exploratory cruiser, the Shimmering Veil. Its ethereal bioluminescent hull glowed with a soft, inviting light, reflecting the Kalan's deeply empathetic and non-aggressive nature. It was unarmed, unshielded, and carried a crew comprised solely of Kalan diplomats, led by Lumina 7, whose internal light pulsed with a mixture of apprehension and unwavering resolve. Their directive from the Grand Alliance Council was stark in its simplicity: approach human territory, attempt communication, and above all, understand. There were to be no threats, no displays of power, no assumptions of authority. They were to be supplicants, observers, students in the face of the incomprehensible. As the Shimmering Veil approached the edge of human-declared space, its sensors registered a familiar, unsettling signature: the quantum entanglement fields that surrounded human vessels. This time, however, there was no hostility, only a passive, almost watchful presence. Several human ships, identical to the Pathfinder, were stationed along the perimeter, their matte gray hulls absorbing the distant starlight. Lumina 7 initiated the communication sequence, broadcasting on every known universal frequency, utilizing the most ancient and revered diplomatic protocols. Its voice, translated into the guttural yet strangely melodic human language, carried a message of pure, unadulterated intent. "This is Grand Alliance diplomatic vessel Shimmering Veil. We approach in peace. We are unarmed. We seek understanding. We regret any previous misunderstandings and acknowledge our errors in judgment. We request permission to enter your declared space and establish dialogue." The response was immediate, yet not what the Kalan expected. Instead of a direct reply, a series of complex, rapidly shifting energy patterns emanated from one of the human patrol vessels. They were not communication signals in any known sense. They were data packets, encrypted. Lumina 7, drawing upon the Kalan's innate psionic empathy, felt a faint, almost imperceptible surge of information, not words, but concepts, images, and then a mental impression of immense yet carefully controlled power. It was a filter, a test. "They are not speaking, but sending data," Lumina 7 communicated to its crew, its light pulsing with intrigue. "My psionic receptors are interpreting the data stream. It's a series of historical records, their own history, not narrated but presented as raw data, sensor logs, cultural archives. They are showing us their past, but it is incredibly vast, thousands of cycles of recorded history compressed into an almost overwhelming stream." The Kalan crew, their call. C-Tyve's psionic network, now fully engaged, began to process the incoming deluge of information. It was overwhelming, chaotic at first, reflecting the very paradoxes Thrax had spoken of. Cycles of brutal conflict, technological advancement fueled by desperate necessity, moments of profound scientific discovery interwoven with periods of societal collapse. They saw images of planetary devastation, of mass migrations, of ideological wars that had scarred their homeworld. But then, as they delved deeper, patterns began to emerge. They saw humanity, battered and broken, yet always rising again. They saw the devastating consequences of unchecked aggression and the slow, painful evolution of ethical frameworks, of international laws, designed to prevent such self-destruction. They witnessed the creation of the United Nations, a fragile but persistent attempt at global unity, born from the ashes of cataclysmic wars. And then they saw the genesis of the United Nations Space Command, not as an instrument of imperial expansion, but as a protective shield, an extension of their nascent interstellar laws, designed to safeguard humanity from both internal and external threats, and to ensure their survival in a dangerous galaxy. It was a history lesson, delivered not through diplomatic prose, but through the brutal, unvarnished truth of their own experiences. And through it, a terrifyingly clear picture began to emerge. The Arbiter's actions, the Pathfinder's calm defiance, suddenly made chilling sense. Lumina 7 focused its psionic energy, attempting to synthesize the vast stream of data. They are showing us their evolution of law, their understanding of aggression. They experienced it firsthand internally for millennia. They learned the cost of unprovoked attack. The Serenity incident, from their perspective, our diplomatic flotilla approaching their declared territory without prior authorized contact, was a potential threat, a probe. And their response, while extreme by our standards, was their evolved, institutionalized defense mechanism against potential existential threats. They do not distinguish between hostile intent and potential hostile intent. Any uninvited breach of their established security perimeter, particularly by an unknown, technologically advanced entity, is met with immediate, decisive, and overwhelming force. The Kalan realized with a profound shiver that the Alliance's attempts at diplomacy had been interpreted not as a benevolent overture, but as a deliberate probe, a test of their defenses, a potential precursor to invasion. Their display of advanced technology intended to impress was likely seen as a veiled threat. The humans, having endured millennia of such internal conflicts, had developed a zero-tolerance policy for such ambiguities. Suddenly, the data stream changed. It shifted from historical records to a different kind of information, a detailed, precise mapping of their claimed territory, complete with resource allocations, established outposts, and a complex network of defense perimeters. It was not a boast, but a matter-of-fact declaration of their sovereign space, defined by a meticulously constructed legal framework, born from their own bitter history of territorial disputes. And then a new data packet arrived, accompanied by a direct communication. The human voice, still calm, still unhurried, but now imbued with a tone of quiet authority, addressed Lumina 7 directly. Grand Alliance diplomatic vessel Shimmering Veil, your message of peace and request for understanding has been received and processed. Your species' capacity for empathetic data assimilation is noted. The historical records provided are not an act of aggression, but a demonstration of our perspective. We are a species that has learned, through painful experience, the cost of unchecked ambition and the necessity of clearly defined boundaries. Our defense protocols are absolute, established to ensure the survival of our species in a galaxy we perceive as inherently unpredictable. The voice paused, then continued with a chillingly clear logic. The vessel designated Serenity of Kyler breached a declared security zone, broadcast aggressive energy signatures from our perspective, and failed to respond to automated warnings. Its neutralization was a pre-programmed defensive response, not an act of malice. It was an application of our established law. It was an arbitration. Your previous attempts at diplomacy, from our perspective, were either probes for weakness or a deliberate disregard for our sovereignty. Neither is acceptable. Lumina 7, deeply shaken by the blunt, logical dissection of their actions, absorbed the information. There was no apology, no regret, only a cold, unyielding statement of fact. However, the human voice continued, a subtle shift in tone, your current approach, unarmed and seeking understanding, aligns with our protocols for peaceful contact. Your capacity to process complex historical data and your subsequent interpretation of our motivations demonstrates a willingness to adapt. Therefore, we will permit your vessel to proceed to a designated contact zone within our sovereign territory. Be advised, any deviation from this designated path or any detection of aggressive intent will result in immediate and overwhelming neutralization. Your species' capacity for empathy is noted. We anticipate a productive dialogue. The communication ended. The coordinates for the designated contact zone materialized on the shimmering veil's console. Lumina 7, its light pulsing with a profound sense of awe and fear, relayed the information to its crew, and then, through the Alliance's secure channels, to the Grand Council. The Council chamber once again was gripped by a deep, contemplative silence as Lumina 7 report was processed. The Kalan delegate, though still in transit, projected its experiences directly into the chamber, sharing the deluge of human history and the subsequent, chillingly logical communication. "They do not hate us," Lumina 7 translated voice resonated through the chamber. "They do not seek conquest. They seek survival, absolute and undeniable. Their history is a testament to their capacity for self-destruction, and their rigorous adherence to defensive protocols is a direct consequence of that history. The Arbiter was not a weapon of war in the conventional sense. It was an instrument of their law, an enforcer of their existential imperative. It arbitrated against our perceived transgression and delivered its verdict." Xyler, the Cathar delegate, was visibly humbled. His earlier bluster had evaporated, replaced by a deep-seated respect bordering on terror. "Their defense protocols absolute, their interpretation of our actions logical from their perspective. We were not seen as diplomats but as a potential threat, and they responded with the ultimate dispassionate efficiency." Velor Prax, the Vexler, his bioluminescence now a steady, thoughtful rhythm, began to project new data models. "Their technological paradigm, it is not merely advanced, it is different. The quantum entanglement field, for example, is not merely a shield. It is a fundamental manipulation of reality at a localized level. It reflects a profound understanding of physics, a theoretical framework that the Alliance is only now beginning to conceptualize. And the fact that they are willing to share their history, their perspective, it suggests a confidence, an unwavering belief in the righteousness of their own system, despite its brutality." Thrax, the progenitor vine coiling gently around his dais, regarded the assembled delegates. "We have learned a profound lesson, esteemed counselors. We misjudged their intentions. We underestimated their resolve. And we entirely failed to comprehend the depth of their understanding of the universe and their place within it. They are not merely a powerful species. They are a principled species, adhering to a code born of immense suffering and enforced with absolute, unyielding power. The Arbiter was a just and myth until it destroyed an Armada. But it did so not out of malice, but out of a fierce, desperate commitment to its own definition of justice and to the survival of its kind." He paused, a faint hiss escaping his respiratory slits. "And now we are invited, not as equals, not as superiors, but as students. We are to learn their laws, their logic, their existential imperative. We are to understand why a species, capable of such overwhelming power, chooses to apply it with such cold, dispassionate precision." As the shimmering veil approached the designated contact zone, a single elegant human vessel emerged from the void. It was not a warship, nor an exploratory craft. It was a diplomatic cruiser, sleek and purposeful, its matte gray hull reflecting the distant nebula with an understated dignity. A communication channel opened, and the human voice, now subtly warmer, more inviting, filled the shimmering veil's bridge. "Grand Alliance diplomatic vessel Shimmering Veil, welcome to human space. We are UNSC Concord. We are here to escort you to the primary contact station. We anticipate a fruitful exchange." Lumina 7, its bioluminescence pulsing with a renewed sense of purpose, engaged the thrusters, guiding the shimmering veil towards the Concord. The journey had been one of profound reevaluation, a challenging of deeply held assumptions. Humanity, once an enigma of aggression and unpredictability, was revealing itself to be a species of profound, if terrifying, logic, driven by a history of hardship and an unwavering commitment to its own survival. The galaxy had just become a far more complex, and perhaps a far more interesting place. The journey to the primary contact station was conducted in silence, a respectful quiet that allowed the Kalan crew of the Shimmering Veil to fully process the implications of their current situation. The UNSCC. Concord maintained a precise, almost ceremonial escort, its presence a constant reminder of human capability without ever feeling overtly threatening. As they navigated deeper into human-claimed space, the Kalan observed a tapestry of industrious activity. Vast orbital construction platforms assembling new habitats and shipyards, exploratory probes venturing into uncharted nebulae, and transport convoys moving between thriving colony worlds. It was a civilization not merely surviving, but flourishing, expanding with a methodical, unwavering purpose. The contact station itself was a marvel of utilitarian design. It was a vast, rotating torus, its internal sections illuminated by a soft, natural spectrum light. As the shimmering veil docked, a designated airlock hissed open, and Lumina 7, accompanied by 2 Kalan aides, moved towards the entrance, their forms shimmering with a nervous anticipation. Waiting for them was a delegation of humans. They were diverse in appearance, reflecting the myriad nations Lumina 7 had glimpsed in their historical data. Yet they all shared an unspoken gravitas, an air of quiet confidence. Their lead delegate, a human female with eyes that held both weary wisdom and an unyielding resolve, extended a hand in a gesture Lumina 7 recognized as a traditional human greeting. "Welcome, Lumina 7, the human stated, her voice calm and measured. "I am Ambassador Anya Sharma. We are pleased you accepted our invitation for dialogue. We recognize the courage this journey represents." Lumina 7, drawing upon its psionic empathy, sensed no falsehood, no veiled threat, only a genuine, if reserved, welcome. It reciprocated the gesture, its ethereal form rippling gently. "Ambassador Sharma, we are grateful for your hospitality and for the opportunity to understand your species. Our previous actions, born of ignorance, have been rectified by your generous provision of data." Ambassador Sharma nodded, her expression unreadable. "Understanding is a bilateral effort, Lumina 7. We, too, seek to understand the alliance. Your internal conflicts, your diplomatic protocols, your philosophical underpinnings. We have much to learn from each other." The initial phase of dialogue was slow, deliberate, a meticulous exchange of information. The humans, through Ambassador Sharma, explained their legal frameworks, their concepts of territorial sovereignty, and the philosophical underpinnings of their zero-tolerance defense policy. They spoke of the historical imperative for such measures, citing countless examples from their own past where ambiguity had led to catastrophic conflict. Lumina 7, in turn, presented the Alliance's perspective. Their multi-species governance, their established communication protocols, and their reliance on diplomacy as the primary means of conflict resolution. A central point of contention, now stripped of its emotional charge, was the Serenity incident. Ambassador Sharma listened patiently as Lumina 7 recounted the Alliance's intent, a benevolent, albeit misguided, overture. "We understand your intent, Lumina 7, Sharma finally responded, her gaze unwavering. "But intent in the vastness of space is often indistinguishable from threat. The Serenity broadcast unfamiliar energy signatures, deviated from known diplomatic channels, and ignored automated warning systems. To us, these were not merely errors, they were critical breaches of security protocol. The Arbiter acted in accordance with established United Nations Space Command defensive doctrine. Its action was not an act of malice, but an application of principle. It arbitrated the safety of our species." Lumina 7 understood. It was a stark, uncompromising logic, born from a history of profound suffering. The humans had learned, through bitter experience, that sometimes the only way to ensure survival was to remove ambiguity with absolute finality. As the discussions continued, a deeper cultural contrast emerged. The humans, for all their technological prowess, seemed to value individuality and personal freedom to an extent that surprised the Kalan, whose species thrived on collective consciousness. Yet this individualism was counterbalanced by a fierce loyalty to their collective, to humanity itself. They were a species of paradoxes, just as Thrax had observed. "Your species' capacity for internal conflict, for self-destruction, is well documented in the data you provided," Lumina 7 observed one cycle, its light pulsing with gentle inquiry. "Yet, you possess an equally profound capacity for unity, for rebuilding. How do you reconcile these seemingly contradictory traits?" Ambassador Sharma offered a faint, almost imperceptible smile, a rare display of emotion. "It is our burden and our strength, Lumina 7. We are driven by a constant tension between our individual desires and our collective needs. We are flawed, deeply so. We make mistakes, often grievous ones. But we also possess the capacity for self-reflection, for learning from those mistakes, and for striving for something better. Our history is a testament to our struggle, but also to our resilience. We are shaped by our scars." This notion of scars as a source of strength, of past traumas forging a stronger future, was a profound concept for the Kalan, whose evolutionary path had been one of serene, harmonious progression. It offered a glimpse into the human psyche, a window into their enduring drive. Over the course of several cycles, the dialogue deepened. The humans, no longer perceived as a monolithic threat, began to reveal more of their true nature. They were scientists, artists, philosophers, explorers. Their technological advancements, Lumina 7 discovered, were often born not out of a desire for conquest, but out of a relentless pursuit of knowledge, a profound curiosity about the universe. Their quantum entanglement field, for instance, had initially been developed not as a weapon, but as a means of improving FTL efficiency and interstellar communication, its defensive applications discovered only later. One day, Ambassador Sharma approached Lumina 7 with a serious expression. Lumina 7, the Grand Alliance Council has provided us with your comprehensive galactic cartography. We have cross-referenced it with our own, and we have noted a significant discrepancy. A region of space, far beyond our current territories but within your charted boundaries, appears blank on your maps. There is no stellar data, no nebula formations, no gravitational anomalies registered. It is as if that entire sector of the galaxy does not exist. Lumina 7 light dimmed slightly in recognition. Ah, yes, the void sector. It has always been thus, Ambassador. For millennia, that region has remained unchartable. Our most advanced deep space probes are unable to penetrate it. Sensor readings simply cease. It is a region of utter nullity. We theorize it may be a colossal, primordial black hole or a region of warped spacetime, a remnant of a cataclysmic event from the dawn of the galaxy. It is considered impenetrable, an eternal mystery. Ambassador Sharma's expression remained grave. We have observed similar phenomena within that sector, Lumina 7. However, our long-range gravimetric sensors, employing techniques far beyond conventional subspace manipulation, have detected something else, something within the nullity. She activated a holographic display. It projected a faint, almost imperceptible image of the void sector. Where the Alliance maps showed only a blank expanse, the human display showed a faint, geometrically precise pattern buried deep within the nullity. It was not a natural phenomenon. It was a structure. This, Ambassador Sharma stated, her voice low with awe, is a megastructure, not a natural formation, not a star system. It is artificial, and it is of colossal, unimaginable scale. Our analysis suggests it is roughly the size of a dwarf galaxy, and it has been emitting a faint, highly complex signal buried beneath layers of gravimetric and temporal distortion for countless millennia. A signal that we have only now, after centuries of dedicated research into spacetime mechanics, managed to fully decipher. Lumina 7 pulsed with a profound, almost overwhelming sense of awe. A megastructure, the size of a dwarf galaxy, and it had been hidden within the void sector for millennia. This was a discovery that would rewrite galactic history. What is it, Ambassador? Lumina 7 managed to vocalize, its internal light flickering with excited apprehension. What is the signal? Ambassador Sharma looked at Lumina 7, her eyes holding a deep, almost melancholic wisdom. The structure itself is a colossal repository of knowledge, a data archive of a progenitor civilization. A civilization that existed long before any of our species, before the very formation of the Alliance. They were the architects of this galaxy, the weavers of the stellar fabric. And the signal is a warning, a final message sent across the eons. He paused, allowing the gravity of her words to settle. The message speaks of a cosmic threat, an ancient enemy that consumed entire galaxies, leaving behind only dead worlds and shattered civilizations. The progenitor civilization built this archive, this stellar library, as they called it, as a final act of defiance, a repository of their knowledge, a beacon of warning for those who might follow. They hoped that one day a species with the capacity to understand and perhaps to resist would discover it. Lumina 7 was stunned. The void sector, an eternal mystery, was in fact a hidden vault, a cosmic warning beacon, and the humans, dismissed as primitives, had not only found it but had deciphered its millennia-old message. The Arbiter's power, the Pathfinder's technological mastery, were not merely for self-preservation. They were a prelude to something far grander, far more vital. The cosmic threat, what is it? Lumina 7 asked, its voice barely a whisper. Ambassador Sharma's expression hardened. They are called the Void Weavers. Entities that exist beyond our current understanding of spacetime, capable of manipulating cosmic energies to consume stellar systems, leaving behind the nullity that so baffled your probes. They operate on a scale that defies comprehension, driven by an instinct for universal consumption. The progenitor civilization fought them for countless eons, and ultimately they failed. But they left behind a legacy, a hope that new civilizations would rise and perhaps succeed where they had failed. The revelation hung heavy in the air, a cosmic twist that dwarfed the previous conflicts and misunderstandings. The humans, once viewed as a localized threat, were now revealed to be the unexpected inheritors of a galactic legacy, the first species in eons to decipher a warning from the dawn of time. Their self-preservation, their uncompromising defense protocols, their rapid technological advancement suddenly made terrifying existential sense. They were not just surviving for themselves. They were inadvertently preparing for a conflict on a scale that dwarfed all galactic politics. Lumina 7 looked at Ambassador Sharma, its light pulsing with a profound, almost overwhelming mixture of fear, awe, and a burgeoning sense of unity. You knew this, all along. Your relentless expansion, your unparalleled technology, your unwavering commitment to survival, it was all unknowingly in preparation for this. Ambassador Sharma nodded slowly. We have only just fully deciphered the last layers of the message, Lumina 7. The full implications are still being processed. But yes, our instinct for survival, our drive to understand and master our environment, our refusal to yield in the face of adversity. These are traits that perhaps were destined to lead us to this discovery. We are not just a species of paradoxes. We are a species driven by an inherent, almost cosmic resilience. The Grand Alliance, we must inform them. Immediately, this changes everything, Lumina 7 urged, its light now blazing with urgent purpose. Ambassador Sharma placed a hand on Lumina 7's ethereal form, a gesture of quiet reassurance. Indeed, we have already initiated secure encrypted transmissions to your council, providing them with the full deciphered message from the stellar library. But there is more. The progenitor civilization also left instructions, not merely warnings but blueprints, schematics for advanced technologies, for defenses, for weapons capable of standing against the Void Weavers. And the data from the Arbiter incident. It revealed that your own species possesses a capacity for adaptability, for rapid technological integration, that the progenitors deemed crucial for this fight. The irony was not lost on Lumina 7. The very vessel that had instilled such terror, the Arbiter, had provided the data that qualified the Alliance for this greater struggle. The myth that had destroyed an Armada was now the key to saving a galaxy. We are not asking for your submission, Lumina 7. Ambassador Sharma continued, her voice imbued with a quiet power. We are asking for your alliance, for your collective strength, for your unique perspectives and capabilities. This is not a human war. This is a galactic war, a war for the very existence of life against a force of universal consumption. We believe that if we stand together, if we learn from the progenitors' failures and combine our strengths, we might, just might, have a chance. Lumina 7 looked out at the vastness of human space, at the distant shimmer of their expanding civilization, at the resolute, unwavering gaze of Ambassador Sharma. The fear of the unknown, the prejudice born of misunderstanding, had been stripped away, replaced by a profound, almost spiritual awe. The humans, in their relentless, often brutal pursuit of survival, had stumbled upon a truth that would bind all sentient life together, or shatter it into cosmic dust. The Grand Alliance Council convened once more, but this time the atmosphere was utterly transformed. The usual anxieties and political maneuvering had been replaced by a somber, unified resolve. Ambassador Sharma, along with Lumina 7, now stood before the council, projecting the vast, chilling data from the stellar library. The image of the hidden megastructure, the faint, geometric pattern within the void sector, glowed ominously on the central display. The translated message of the progenitor civilization, detailing the horrifying nature of the Void Weavers, resonated through the chamber, painting a picture of cosmic horror and impending annihilation. Thrax, his voice now devoid of any trace of past apprehension, spoke with a gravitas that transcended his individual role. Esteemed delegates, the reality we face today transcends all previous concerns. Our localized conflicts, our territorial disputes, our very notions of power and dominance are rendered utterly meaningless in the face of this cosmic threat. The humans, whom we once viewed with suspicion and fear, have revealed themselves not as aggressors, but as inadvertent sentinels, the first among us to decipher a warning from the architects of our galaxy. Xyler, the Cathar delegate, his sensory filaments now still, his posture one of solemn acceptance, projected his own statement. The Cathar hegemony stands ready, Our fleets, our resources, our warrior spirit will be deployed in full cooperation with the United Nations Space Command. Our honor demands that we stand against this existential enemy, an enemy that seeks to consume all that we hold dear. We misjudged the humans. We underestimated their purpose. Now we acknowledge their foresight and their unwavering resolve. For this threat, there can be no isolation, only unity. Velor Prax, the Vexler, his bioluminescence now a steady, focused pulse of intellectual determination, presented his own findings. The progenitor blueprints, deciphered by the humans, present a theoretical framework for manipulating cosmic energies that promises to be our only hope. Their quantum entanglement technology, far from being merely defensive, is the key to harnessing and redirecting the very fabric of spacetime against the Void Weavers. My research teams are already integrating these blueprints, attempting to bridge the technological gap. The humans have provided us not just with a warning, but with the means to fight. Lumina 7, its light blazing with a newfound hope, addressed the Council. The humans are not driven by a desire for power, but by a profound, almost desperate, instinct for survival, forged in the crucible of their own history. Their arbitration of our past transgressions was not an act of cruelty, but a necessary, albeit brutal, step in their preparation for this greater conflict. They are logical, principled, and possess a resilience that, I now believe, is unparalleled in this galaxy. They are not merely allies, they are the catalysts of our unified defense. Ambassador Sharma, standing tall amidst the diverse alien delegates, her gaze sweeping across the chamber, articulated the human perspective with calm authority. The stellar library contains not only warnings, but also the hope for victory. The progenitor civilization outlined strategies, revealed weaknesses of the Void Weavers, and emphasized the importance of diverse perspectives and combined strengths. They failed because they fought alone, relying solely on their own prodigious power. We, the disparate species of this galaxy, have a chance precisely because we are diverse, because we bring different strengths, different ways of thinking to this ultimate challenge. We are humanity, and we are not afraid to learn. We are not afraid to adapt, and we are not afraid to fight for the survival of all. The chamber, for the first time in its long history, was filled not with political maneuvering or interspecies tension, but with a palpable sense of shared destiny. The long, atmospheric buildup of fear and misunderstanding had culminated in a unity forged in the crucible of an existential threat. The humans, once the enigmatic aggressors, were now the quiet, formidable architects of a galactic alliance. Their seemingly ruthless logic, their uncompromising defense, their rapid technological leaps, were all, in hindsight, the necessary evolutions of a species preparing for a war it did not even know it was destined to fight. The grand irony, the ultimate twist, was not merely the discovery of an ancient threat, but the revelation that the very qualities that had made humanity so terrifying, their resilience, their adaptability, their unwavering, uncompromising will to survive, were precisely the qualities needed to face a danger that transcended individual species and threatened the entire fabric of sentient existence. The ship was a just and myth until it destroyed an armada. It was no longer just a cryptic name or a terrifying legend. It was the symbol of humanity's quiet, formidable strength, a strength forged in the fires of their own history, a strength that was now, unexpectedly, the galaxy's last best hope. And as the Council, now united, began to plan their defense, a new future stretched before them. One born not of conquest or fear, but of an unexpected, profound unity against a cosmic terror. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and horrors, but now it would face them together. And at its heart, standing ready, was humanity, the quiet, uncompromising arbiters of a new, unified galactic age. The journey had begun with fear and suspicion, but it had culminated in a revelation that transcended all understanding. Humanity, in its raw, unyielding essence, was perhaps the greatest force for unity the cosmos had ever known. Their arbiter had not merely destroyed an armada. It had, in its own brutal, undeniable way, set the stage for the galaxy's redemption.